don't think these 4-day strikes have achieved anything. We've already had one set of strikes. The government aren't coming to the negotiating table. If they called off the strikes, they would get a reasonable offer.
With all due respect, Dr. Lawrence, you've left the NHS ages ago. It's certainly not where you left it at. At the moment, we don't have enough admin staff. People are off sick. We have far more people who are off sick if you compare them to the numbers in 2019. We don't have any admin staff. There are no nurses. We've got 45,000 vacancies at the moment when we talk about nurses. Junior doctors did this as a last resort. Do you think they're happy doing this? Certainly not.
A 250,000 appointments and operations could be delayed as junior doctors walk out for 4 days tomorrow morning.
But one of the central questions here is, does that align with the doctor's moral duty? Because when they graduate, of course, most medics take an oath, a bit like this from the University of Exeter, where they say, I solemnly pledge that I will do my best to serve humanity, caring for the sick, promoting good health and alleviating pain and suffering. And I think there's usually a bit about doing no harm as well.
So do doctors have a moral duty to their patients to work? Or do you think that they are, in fact, in certain circumstances, like the ones we're in at the moment, entitled to strike? And are they going against their oath? Well, we're joined by two GPs now. NHS doctor Anita Raja, who says doctors have no choice but have to strike on this occasion. And
private Dr Lawrence Gurlis, who disagrees, and he says that patients' lives are going to be harmed starting at 7 o'clock tomorrow morning when the walkout begins. But Anita, let's begin with you. I mean, whatever we think about the fact that junior doctors are quite clearly underpaid, no, I don't think anybody would have any issues about that at all, and have been for a long time, and it's getting worse. You can't deny that there is this moral dilemma, isn't there? There really is.
The matter of the fact is that when it comes to moral duty, I think they've already fulfilled their moral duty by putting their lives at risk throughout the COVID-19 pandemic. We've lost many of our junior doctors, many of our consultants, and now it's time to repay them. You cannot force people to stay within the healthcare profession if you're not paying them enough. Now, you'll be surprised, Richard, if I tell you that junior doctors are Ubering because they simply cannot afford the rent anymore. I mean, we need to understand that these are highly qualified professionals. These are A-plus graders. We're giving them no incentives to stay within this profession. We're discouraging our own children to get into this profession. And at the moment, if we look at the GMC workforce report, it's dire. Over 900 doctors have already left the UK for Australia between 2021 and 2022. While you and I are sat here, you know, debating whether junior doctors should stay, get paid or not paid, they're leaving us because this world is giving them, if we look at globally, if we look at the healthcare workers, I mean, there's a huge demand all around the world.
We'll come to you in a second.
Okay.
Just 1 second. Yes, but let's just focus on the moral dilemma. And I'm not saying, I really am not saying that I think this, but I read this yesterday. I thought it was an interesting take on it. That if a patient who was in need presented themselves to a junior doctor who they happened to know was a junior doctor who was on strike and said, help me, the doctor would help them, strike or no strike. Of course they would. But in a sense, they're not helping them because they're hiding behind the industrial action. And the industrial action is actually, in the end, the same as refusing to help a patient face-to-face. And I'm not saying that I think that.
No,
but
I beg to disagree. I beg to disagree. 500 extra people are dying every single week just because they can't access care. Where is the government when this happens? Junior doctors are striking because people are dying every single week and nobody's doing anything. It's not just about pay. It's about bad working conditions. It's about not being able to focus on their work. You cannot compare a junior doctor's 12-hour shift to somebody who's packaging boxes. They are dealing with human lives. They need to be there. They need to be present there. They need to focus. There's a lot of effort put behind it. And, you know, I certainly think, Richard, that they are doing this for the public, for the safety of the public.
Dr Lawrence, you wanted to come in there. You're a private GP.
I am,
Many might say, well, hang on a minute, you haven't put yourself in the NHS's shoes yourself.
I'm going to work today, as I have been every day this weekend. I believe medicine's a vocation. It's a privilege to be a doctor. I think the doctors should call off this strike now. There's still time to call it off. Lives will be harmed. I don't accept the argument that because the health service is in a bad way, that we should do more harm to patients. We're talking about 300,000 procedures cancelled. And when I say procedures and routine operations, that's not just hips and hernias, that's cancer surgery, that's biopsies, it's endoscopies, it's people who are very, very ill, And your own headline said it, lives will be affected.
Yes, but I have
week.
to put it to you that you just told me that you became a private GP 30 years ago.
Yes.
Right? Dr. Anita's just saying that actually she's angry because the COVID pandemic put NHS doctors under such unimaginable pressure that now that they are saying no more. But you yourself opted out of the NHS, so how can you criticise Anita and her colleagues for striking?
I absolutely support the doctors' pay demands. I don't support a 4-day strike now, after the 4-day bank holiday weekend, with another weekend coming up now. We're catching up from COVID. We've still got a huge waiting list. This affects people, individual. Every single one of the 300,000 procedures cancelled is a person, it's a human being. They're all going to be getting letters cancelling their operations. The GPs are now cancelling all routine appointments.
Will you be offering your services to the NHS?
I would be working every day. I see patients who cannot see NHS GPs. I'm going in today. I will see patients who cannot get access to NHS GPs. Most Dr. Raj is working today. Most NHS GPs are not working today.
Just explain why it is that you, 30 years ago, decided to never work for the NHS.
It's partly about pay. It's more about the bullying culture, the tribalism. Junior doctors can't get hot food. They have no places to rest. They have to switch jobs every 4 months. They're bullied by nurses. They're bullied by their consultants. It's not just about
Dr. Lawrence,
so why
Can I ask
not?
you a simple question then?
But striking.
If you support the pay demand, the 35% pay demand, you think that they're grossly underpaid and grossly badly treated, which is why you don't work in the NHS, what would you do? If you were the leader of the doctors' union, what would you do?
I wouldn't have a 4-day strike to start.
No, but what would you do?
I would work to rule. I'd stop doing administrative tasks. I would perhaps have the occasional 1-day strike. I don't think these 4-day strikes have achieved anything. We've already had one set of strikes. The government aren't coming to the negotiating table. If they called off the strikes, they would get a reasonable offer. But working to rule makes more sense because doctors do massive amounts of admin on old-fashioned computers. Let someone else do the admin. See the patients, treat them, prescribe for them, manage them. Let someone else do all the
What do you think about that, Anita? Kind of a middle road.
Patients at home this morning might be thinking, actually, he's making a bit of sense there.
No, I don't think so. I'll tell you what it is. I mean, with all due respect, Dr. Lawrence, you've left the NHS ages ago. It's certainly not where you left it at. At the moment, we don't have enough admin staff. People are off sick. We have far more people who are off sick if you compare them to the numbers in 2019. We don't have any admin staff. There are no nurses. We've got 45,000 vacancies at the moment when you talk about nurses. Junior doctors did this as a last resort. Do you think they're happy doing this? Certainly not. And the problem here is they've got an option. Let's take a step back, and I'm going to reiterate. These people are highly educated, qualified people.
The real workforce problem is in general practice. You're a GP.
I understand
but there are 30,000 more hospital doctors now than there were 10 years. The shortage and
but the population is rising. The population. No, but at the moment we're here to talk about the junior doctor strike.
Well, no, but it's the GPs where the problem is.
And the thing here, what we've got to understand over here is that this was the last resort. They didn't do this because this was the first point of negotiation. This is the last point of negotiation. They've got an option to work for a militant monopoly employer, be underpaid, be overworked, burnt out, or they've got the option to leave.
They should not be harming patients.
Can I just say something? We all know that all industrial disputes, in the end, are settled. There is always a settlement in the end. And there's one coming down the tracks on this. We don't know what it is, but it's coming down the tracks.
It won't be 35%.
It won't be, of course it won't be 35%. On this programme last year, I actually had a bet with a government minister who repeatedly said, on this programme, that they would not negotiate with the nurses. They would not negotiate with the nurses. They would not. And I said, I bet you will. I bet you anything you like, you will. And she wouldn't take the bet. I wish she had, because I would have been 20
You'd have been right.
They are, in the end, going to be talking to the doctors.
They will have to.
Yes, but the nurses getting 5%.
The thing we've got to understand, these people are our frontline workers. For heaven's sake, they're Ubering because they can't pay their rent. This is a disgrace.
Sympathy.
I won't.
When you say they're Ubering, you mean they're taking jobs as taxi drivers?
Yes, they are. They have to. They have to. They've got no option. I mean, they're being paid £14 an hour. Why should they not just go to Costa and not have that 80 to 100,000 debt to start off as a junior doctor?
Being a doctor is a privilege.
It's not a vacation.
It is.
It doesn't pay your bills, sir. It does not pay your bills.
It's a privilege that buys you a lot of society.
Just as a final point, can I just, because we have to move on, Dr. Lawrence, can I ask you, do you think that the junior doctors, the 47,500 of them that are walking out for 4 days, are they breaking their oath?
If there is such thing as an oath, my answer to that is yes. They're refusing to treat patients and lives will be harmed.
Do you think they're breaking... Whatever you think about their motives and their justification, do you think they're breaking their oath?
No, they're not. They're trying to bring attention to the fact that the working conditions within hospitals are dire. People are dying. Nobody has been paying attention. Now everybody is in front of the screens.
Yeah. I do find it interesting that both of you agree that there are massive problems.
Yes.
You both agree on that, whether it was 30 years ago or whether it was 3 days ago.
Yes.
But it's the action that's being taken and whether that is the appropriate action is the debate.
You know, we're talking about this.
I must say, as a journalist, I never thought ever that I would be taking part in a debate about junior doctors having to go out on strike. What a pass we've come to. What a pass we've come to.
It's desperately sad.
Okay.
Very, very sad.
Thank you to both of you for coming in. I know you're both going off to work today.
Yes, we are.
So
You're going off to
either
work.
privately or in the NHS, we thank you both.